So my next topic this week, and I didn't pre-run this one, but we're just gonna wing this one. Earlier this week, our president decided to make an announcement that he is trying to make it official to ban TikTok from the United States, and this is coming after several other countries in the U.S. have already done so, and going behind the whole, China's trying to steal data, all that kind of stuff, excluding all of that, Microsoft has come out and announced that they are interested in purchasing TikTok. What are your thoughts on the ideas of, we just got over the whole Mixer scandal or the whole Mixer loss, and now Microsoft is announcing this idea to look into acquiring TikTok, another social media platform which they have zero experience in. What are your thoughts on this one? We'll start with Hopper on this one if you're ready.
Whew. Briefly, I won't miss TikTok if it goes in the U.S. Just saying. It's just one more social platform I don't need to learn to master. I don't think it has a lot of outreach anyways. It's just one of those things to like watch something real quick and kill some time while you're doing it. But I also saw too, besides, I didn't know the Microsoft was looking to pick them up, but I saw, Facebook just dropped Instagram Reels, basically like a TikTok clone. Obviously there's going to be other options for those TikTokers if they do lose that platform in the U.S. But I don't know. Microsoft just seems to be kind of trying to get into everything they can, see if they can make money off of it. And if they can get it, they'll probably keep going with it. If it falls on its face, they'll close it down like they closed down Mixer. They don't seem to have much attachment to their projects these days. And that's all I got on that.
So they're starting to feel like Google a little bit, is what you're saying. Rip Google Wave. No, I don't know. I've never been big into TikTok, so my opinion on that platform isn't terribly strong. I actually hadn't known or seen anything as far as Instagram getting into it, but if Instagram, aka Facebook, is getting into it, I honestly think that we can just expect that that's where that type of content's just simply going to migrate to. And it would probably, in my opinion, wouldn't be the best idea for Microsoft to pick up TikTok if there's all this controversy around it and people who, let's be honest, if you have a TikTok account, chances are pretty good you already have an Instagram as well. So if TikTok disappears from the United States for any amount of time, you're going to move your content over. And if Microsoft brings it back, are you really going to go back again to something that disappeared? Maybe. But I feel like if they get pulled from the app stores, it won't take long for people to find somewhere else to move that content and start producing it somewhere else. And then it making a comeback, I don't know that will matter as much. Yeah, people will probably use it, but once it's one of those things, it's once you're established somewhere on a platform, as long as that platform continues to exist, you don't have a lot of incentive to move. Like, you would have to have a good financial reason to move, because ultimately, as we're seeing with the this Mixer scandal, so to speak, moving your community as a creator from one platform to another is huge. You can't be guaranteed that they're all going to follow. And so to some extent, you're going to be rebuilding, and you know it on the other side. So nobody creating content and building a community, or I don't know what a community is on TikTok, but at least a following, I guess. But as long as you're building that somewhere, once you're established somewhere, why on earth would you want to move? You would have to have some kind of financial incentive. You would have to be, Ninja getting a massive contract to leave. You would have to be somebody at that level, and anybody smaller than the guaranteed money contracts for changing platforms is not going to want to do it. That would, I don't know why you would. So if there's an alternative and it gets banned, bye. That would be my assumption, honestly.
Fast-paced world we live in.
Yeah, and I'm kind of in a mix there. Apparently a part of the discussion leads into the fact that with with the data policies or the data collection policies that TikTok currently has, if it were owned by a U.S. company, it would be legal. But the problem is the fact that it's being pulled into a foreign entity is where it comes into a weird situation, right? Like, we've never had these policies for Google. We've never had these policies, or we've never been concerned about the data collection policies for Facebook, Apple, Google, right? These other companies that are actively, seizing data or collecting data, right? We've never been concerned about it because they've all pretty much been US based. I think TikTok is the first big platform that is not. And I think that's where this big concern is coming, because it's being fed into, right? Or there's talks that it's being fed into the Chinese Communist Party, et cetera, right? And it's just a weird situation to be in. I think if Microsoft does acquire it, they are going to try to do it before it gets pulled anywhere. Like, it's going to be really quiet, it's going to be really quick, and it's just going to happen, and nobody will know the wiser, right? Like, it won't be one of these big announcements. It won't be one of these big transitions, right? They're not going to want people to know, because now all of a sudden it becomes relevant that Microsoft is now collecting data, right? Like what they're talking about, right? And it becomes relevant that now a US company that they're liable for becomes an issue.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you consider the way Instagram went from independent to Facebook, it was similar. It was something that if you were paying attention, you knew it was coming. Had been paying attention to the news, then you knew about it. But if you weren't explicitly watching, it just kind of happened. So yeah, I could see that in the context of it being a quick switch over.
Yeah, I would assume TikTok will lose all value once it gets banned. It's like Nathan said, the revival chance. It's next day they'll be like, come check me out on Grim Reels, whatever it's called.
The other interesting thing there is I don't ever know what the deal was with TikTok and the DMCA strikes and things like that. Like, I never understood how TikTok was able to get past the fact that they were using, real songs or real clips from songs, etc., and people's recordings and things like that without ever paying that out or without ever doing anything about that, right? Like, how did that not? Because as soon as you would take that clip and share it to Twitter would shut it down. As soon as you take it and share it to Facebook, it would get shut down. If you played it on Twitch, it would get shut down, right? Or it would get muted in your VOD, right? So I think if that, again, I believe that because it was a China company, they weren't responsible for it. As soon as that comes to Microsoft, now it becomes an issue, and these companies are all going to go after Microsoft, right? Like, and it's going to become this weird situation that I don't even know why Microsoft's toying with the idea. I think there was just a publicity stunt. I don't know what the idea was, like why they were even talking about it, but it's kind of a weird situation to be in there.
We just want the data.
Yeah, the DMCA side is definitely interesting. I do wonder if that was simply a part of it. It's harder to get sued when you're outside the U.S. I think going back to the data collection thing, part of it I think is because it's foreign is why people are upset. There was also, I forget now, it was a few weeks ago, but there was a big dust up over a change in iOS where some sort of like paste buffer protection safety something got added, and so then when people had TikTok open, they got a warning that the app was trying to read what was in their paste buffer. And I think that was a big part of what kicked off the discussion about the data collection, is people are going, wait, why is this app even looking for that? Why does it care about that permission? Beyond that, just in data collection in general, I think a lot of people don't realize how much data mobile games or mobile apps already collect. So I used to work directly with an app company, and I got to see what this particular app would collect. And I could tell you that the amount of data collected by this particular mobile app and the supporting infrastructure behind it that exists to allow all mobile apps to do similar things is far more extensive and far more detailed than I think most people, the average consumer, will ever even begin to realize. Like in the case of this particular application, there was a way that you could send messages, and every single message every single solitary message, when it was sent by a user, the GPS location of the user was collected. Every single message. So constantly, if somebody's using that particular app, at a fairly high rate, you could theoretically, out of the data that we were collecting, you could actually build a map of where they had been that day. And I think a lot of users don't consider that is something that is entirely and totally possible with most apps that they use. If there's an app that you use that you interact with on a consistent basis that you have given GPS or location permissions to, they can collect that pretty much anytime they want. There's some sort of, reasonability, and like they have to have a use for it. There has to be a reason for it. And I'm sure that, I don't know, I'm sure that to some extent, if it's not useful, some companies are not pushing that hard to just steal everything they can get their hands on. But some of that comes back to the argument of what is useful for the company. Like in this case, none of the data was being sold externally or shared in any way, but a lot of it became useful when dealing with fraud, with dealing with crime, when dealing with investigations. And some of it was just simply, it felt a bit heavy-handed to collect right up until you were having to debug something. And then it became useful from the engineering perspective. So I think it's a way bigger thing than I think most consumers will ever understand. It just came back to the security thing in iOS, kind of bringing it to light. And then on top of that, the fact that it was a foreign company really is what got the fire going. So it's something that we'll continue to have as a topic for as long as we have mobile devices and applications.
Yeah, and your average user, you get that little pop-up box, allow permissions. Yes, 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 yes. Like, we don't read it anymore. I'm guilty of that, But even how Google Maps works, your traffic, high traffic, it's because it's pinging people's GPS locations over and over again, and it's seeing that these people in this area are moving very slowly down the road. That's just how things operate. Which again, I'm fine. Big brother, you can put a chip in me. I don't care.
Yeah, there's some fun stuff with that. There was a guy, I think it was like 2 years ago now, that had a literal Red Ryder, wagon full of cell phones, and he put I think it was Waze on all of them, and he would walk it up and down his local street, and they would all be on Waze at the same time, and he would use that to make sure that his street was always super slow traffic marked, even though there was no traffic on it. And then people would get routed around where he lived. So it's pretty wild how some of that stuff works.
Thankful for that, because it helped them fix their algorithm.
Sure did.
It's like that.
So okay, yeah. So that's interesting. I like your guys' perspectives and ideas on that, and both of you kind of being somewhat tech savvy individuals. I knew that you'd have differences, some opinions on that and how that works as well. So I like that, and I'm again, just like I said with the mobile gaming, I'm very curious to see what Microsoft does here, because they're already got so much in the works, right, in the gaming realm. Like, why jump into social media at this time? Like, there's so much going on. Like, why invest this risk, when there's I don't know, there's a whole lot of reward there. But
I think it's just some way to feel or be irrelevant. Even if it's just for a news cycle. I mean, obviously, I don't work at Microsoft. I have no idea what on earth they're thinking, but I can't imagine it has much else to do with other than having a product in front of users. Because in some cases, some of a chunk of their revenue is advertising, right? And they currently don't have a way to be in front of users outside of mostly enterprise-oriented apps and your desktop computer. There isn't a big way for them to be in front of you in a mobile sense right now. Facebook has Instagram, Google has Android phones, and then all their apps and things that go along with it. Microsoft has Bing. Yeah, or Office Mobile. But yeah, well, and exactly, who isn't just using Google Docs instead because free? But yeah, during your day outside of your desktop computer, how are you interacting with Microsoft? I'm not really.
Got nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So yeah, you're right. They do need some. I mean, and maybe that's part of their attempt here is to find some way to make it. I mean, Windows Phone pretty much went belly up. You know, what was it, like 5 years back now? Windows Phone went belly up, and they haven't had a return to the mobile scene in an aggressive form at all, right? They have no real strong mobile presence unless it is like corporately driven. The one thing I could see is Microsoft Exchange. Microsoft Outlook for mobile would be one thing, is if you had like Exchange server requirements or something like that. But other than that, I can't see much else. But that's leading back into the enterprise environment, right? That's not something that a general consumer is going to be looking at, and a general consumer is not going to be looking at advertising, spending money, etc., on something like that. Right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, there's probably some way to look it up. I imagine the largest apps that they have on mobile right now are Xbox, which, I mean, they have some impact there certainly, but like I do not use Xbox mobile app for much of anything ever. Maybe folks that are more into the Xbox gaming side maybe use it a little bit more. I don't honestly know. I don't use my Xbox that much, but like outside of that, I think the biggest other I'm aware of for Microsoft on Android would be Bing, for both people that use it, and they do have like a replacement launcher, so you can use like the Microsoft version of the home screen launcher for Android if you want. I actually tried it. It wasn't bad, but it was like, why on earth do I need to use this when my phone comes with one? It's perfectly serviceable. So yeah, owning a social media platform, I think, just I don't know how else it would serve them other than just having their logo in front of you.